You need to take responsibility for your actions. You need to take responsibility for your actions. That's going to be the message of this podcast. And the idea to talk about this subject came up to me as I was finishing this excellent biography of President and General Ulysses S. Grant by Ron Chernow. I finished that a couple weeks ago. And there's a great scene in there. I tried to find it. I tried to find the exact words so I could read Lincoln's actual quote, but I couldn't find it. It's a book of 1,000 pages, so I got lost in the actual quotation, unfortunately. But I can paraphrase it for you. I can paraphrase it. There was a meeting that Grant and President Lincoln had late in the war, where President Lincoln took Grant aside and said, one of the things that I really appreciate about you is that you always took responsibility for the things that you did. You always took responsibility for what you did and what you planned and the actions you took, whether they were right or not right. My other generals would always involve me in some sort of discussion like this. We would say, or the general would say, well, Mr. President, I'm not so sure about it. I'll try it if you want me to try it, but I can't really be sure that it's going to work out. But if you want me to do it, I'll do it. One of those mealy-mouthed types of things. And Lincoln said, when they would say this sort of thing, it put all the onus on me. When they would adopt this sort of attitude, it would put the onus of success or failure on the campaign on me. And that isn't my job. I'm the president. You're the general. You go out there, you fight the war, you win the war. So I liked this exchange that Lincoln had with Grant very much. I liked his candor and his honesty. Because basically what Lincoln is telling Grant is that you took responsibility, you took a burden off of my shoulders, and you placed it on your own shoulders. And every boss wants this, perhaps more than anything. If you have ever been in a position of responsibility, you will know that you want to be able to delegate tasks to competent people who will carry them out, who will actually do something. Because if you can have the peace of mind of knowing that something is going to get done, then that frees you up to focus on other things. But if you have to constantly babysit and wet nurse and spoon feed a bunch of geeks, then you are going to be in a living hell. So if you want to make yourself indispensable to a boss or to a supervisor, then you need to take responsibility for the things that you are assigned for doing. And this is what separated Grant from all the other dorks that were political generals or incompetent generals in the Union cause. And there were many of them. Halleck, you had Hooker, Joe Hooker, Halleck, McClellan, you had Ambrose Burnside, one dork after another. There were many of them. I can't name all of them, but there were many of them. And they all had one thing in common. They would never take responsibility for anything. It was always someone else's fault. It was always someone else's fault. There were 3 Union generals that were worth something, that the success of the enterprise depended on. And those were U.S. Grant, Philip Sheridan, and of course William Tecumseh Sherman. Those 3 generals. They're the only ones that took responsibility for anything. Everybody else was a limp dick. Everybody else was passing the buck. Everybody else was looking for excuses. And the reason why I'm doing a podcast about this is because this is the type of disease that we see replicated today. If you ever pay attention to politics, which you can't escape doing in today's world. Everybody is a limp dick in politics. Everybody is never responsible for what they do. Everyone is always looking to cover their asses, pass the buck, blame someone else, not do anything, not say anything offensive, not take a stand on anything. And this is part of the reason why we are in the situation that we are now. Because all we have at the top are limp dicks. We have limp dicks, buck passers, chicken shits, weasels, rats, pudwacks, dunces, dorks. These are the people that we have, and they're all old. If you haven't noticed, everyone is old. I mean, it's just incredible. Biden, Trump, Schumer, Pelosi, Graham, everybody and everyone on the Supreme Court, everyone is old. At some point, you need fresh blood. We need fresh blood into the system. People that are going to seize the bull by the horns, people that are going to take responsibility for action and make decisions. Be willing to put themselves out there. Be willing to put their balls out there. Be willing to put their asses out there. No one is willing to do that. And it's just, it just boggles the mind. It just boggles the mind because you say to yourself, what do these people think that they're there for? Do they think that they're there to aggrandize themselves, to make money, to get rich, to feather their nests for their sons and daughters, to appoint their friends? Apparently so. But regardless, that's a subject, I think, for another day. But the point, again, of this podcast is take responsibility. Do something and own up to it. If you can just do that, if you can just get into the habit of doing that, you will be able to separate yourself from 95% of the other knob warriors walking around there now. Because everybody is a shirker. Everyone is a shirker. They're shirking responsibility and they're hiding because they want to play it safe. They want to play it safe. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to stir the waters. That's not how you become great. That is not how you become great. You become great by doing your background research, by taking a position, by staking it out, and by fighting it out to the death. That's how you become great. And we have to adopt, I hope you will adopt a little bit of that thinking, or a lot of that thinking, into your own ethic, because we desperately, desperately need it. And there is safety in honesty. Everyone thinks that, I'm going to get in trouble. No, at some point you just have to put it out there. At some point you have to just do something. You have to make a decision, you have to stand by it, and you have to let the chips fall where they may. And that's what leadership is about. That's what life is about. That's what living is about. Living is not about hiding, passing the buck, shirking, scamming, licking your finger and extending it to see where the prevailing winds are blowing. There was a chapter in my book, Pantheon, which was published years ago. I think it was 2016. Or 2015, where there's a chapter in there called The Shirkers and the Workers. Shirkers and the Workers. And it involved a quote from Edward Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. But I used that quote as a way to make a larger point. And we see the same thing today. There are people shirking responsibility, and we see the small minority, the 10%, the 5%, who are actually working, who are doing something, who are carrying the ship forward. Be a worker, not a shirker, and take responsibility. All right, that's enough for now. Go out there and get them.